Human trafficking, especially involving children, is both heartbreaking and horrendous, especially when you consider trafficking in Oklahoma often begins in the home. Reporter Steve Shaw joins us now with more on that very sad reality. Steve.
Rich, human trafficking is the exploitation of human beings for sex and cheap or free labor or services. In Oklahoma, the conventional wisdom has been that traffickers used our highway systems to transport victims, but that's only part of it.
We'll have staff working in different shifts 24 hours a day, so the survivors we serve will have 24-hour emotional support and advocacy.
Whitney Anderson is co-founder and executive director of the Dragonfly Home. They've taken more than 6,000 calls reporting human trafficking since they opened their crisis center in the Oklahoma City metro area in late 2016. We can't show you the crisis center because its location is top secret. What we are showing you is video from inside their new 9-bedroom transitional home, again at an undisclosed location. It officially opens in about a month and will serve as many as 20 human trafficking survivors at a time.
What I do know is that traffickers prey upon vulnerable situations, and we have a lot of vulnerable situations in Oklahoma.
Why?
Yeah, and so that could look like, I think we're the top in the nation for adverse childhood experiences. So we're talking about childhood sexual abuse or physical abuse and neglect. And traffickers prey upon those instances of somebody having been abused and not having this sense of self-worth and self-esteem, and they exploit that to their advantage.
Anderson says human traffickers exploit poverty. They exploit people who've been incarcerated, and any sort of things that can make it hard for people to function day to day.
So traffickers will say, they might find somebody in a vulnerable situation. Say there's a mother who's having a hard time providing food for her children or having a stable place to live. And a trafficker will swoop in and they'll say, I can provide the food, I can provide the home, and then there are strings attached. And that's where it looks so much more insidious.
They're pretty heavy strings.
Yes, there are heavy strings. And the person who is desperate to make ends meet is unaware of what those strings really mean.
You may be surprised to also know that the human trafficking industry in the Sooner State, which involves I-35, I-44, and I-40, also includes people you would never know.
We see mothers and fathers selling their children. We see people selling their spouses, their significant others.
Melissa Ike co-founded Dragonfly Home and is director of communications.
Familial trafficking is a real problem in Oklahoma, in every part of Oklahoma.
As it is so still under-identified, under-reported. It's very covert, it's hidden in plain sight.
So someone is in rural Oklahoma and maybe they want to pay their rent or get drugs or just have more money, they can create ads online, they can target, find customers through social media and sell their child. This is really not that uncommon.
Honestly, when I first came into this, I had heard the same thing. And so it was all about I-35 and I-44 and I-40. And when I started actually talking with survivors, I noticed that there was too much in common, that it didn't have anything to do with the highway system. That in fact it was about, first of all, it's a business. So traffickers are selling human beings, and there is a market for that. So there's a demand and a market for commercial sex, illicit sex, and free or cheap labor.
Charlie Lamento is an attorney and prosecutor from Kansas City who moved to Europe several years ago, where he prosecutes some of the worst human trafficking offenders on behalf of the United Nations.
We need to take care of our victims. But I think what has happened over the years is that we've gone so far that way, we're not prosecuting, we're not putting more resources into prosecuting and convicting more traffickers and their accomplices.
Lamento shared facts that are startling. He says there are more than 40 million slaves globally. Over 6 million children worldwide are held in slavery. 28% of the total victims are children. Human traffickers profit more than $150 billion each year. In 2017, 17,880 offenders were prosecuted worldwide. Just 7,045 were convicted.
Would you say social media has poured gas on this fire?
Well, I'll be more specific. I would say pornography tied in with the internet, no doubt in my mind, is the fuel and the flame. And I say that not just as an advocate for try to protect victims of trafficking and sexual violence, but I'm saying that as a former prosecutor and as an investigator, where I listened to the evidence from doctors and scientists that said, look, most of the things that these people are doing, they didn't just come out of their mother's womb with this desire. It was an environmental issue, and it started with pornography. It's continuing to grow, and there's all kinds of small little versions, gangs that are involved in this trafficking. Domestic violence is off the scales, let alone all the other issues with just sexual abuse that's happening with families and friends and schoolmates and all. So for sure we need shelters, but kind of like prisons. Do we need more prisons? Probably need more prisons, but we've got to do something and get these traffickers off the street.
We have 5 more individual rooms and 2 larger family rooms.
Dragonfly Executive Director Whitney Anderson says here in Oklahoma, there are several ways to report human trafficking.
I would recommend local law enforcement. There's also the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs has a human trafficking hotline. And then if people don't feel comfortable going straight to those avenues, they can call the Dragonfly Home Human Trafficking Hotline, and we can pass along that tip.
What's that number?
It is 405-212-3377.
Again, that number is 405-212-3377. Dragonfly Home's biggest fundraiser of the year, the Crown of Beauty Gala, is September 30th at the Embassy Suites in downtown Oklahoma City.